Canada and the United States are discussing early trade negotiations, a move that could reshape North American commerce. At the same time, they're exploring ways to counter China's dumping practices, which have long been a concern in industries like steel, aluminum, and manufacturing. But what does this mean for businesses and consumers? Could this lead to new trade agreements or trade conflicts? Let's break it down. Canada and the U.S. share one of the world's largest trading relationships, with over $2 billion in goods and services exchanged daily. But in an era of shifting global markets, Canada's finance minister has signaled openness to early talks about a possible new trade agreement or adjustments to existing policies. Why? Several factors are at play: global economic uncertainty and supply chain disruptions, concerns over Chinese trade practices, including dumping of cheap goods, and the future of NAFTA's replacement, the USMCA. With elections in both Canada and the U.S. approaching, trade policy is becoming a major focus. A key issue on the table? China's dumping practices. Dumping happens when a country exports goods at prices lower than market value, often backed by government subsidies. This creates unfair competition and harms domestic industries in Canada, and the U.S. sectors affected include steel and aluminum. North American producers struggle against an influx of cheap Chinese metals, solar panels, and batteries. Low-cost imports threaten domestic clean energy industries and consumer goods. Unfair pricing can weaken local manufacturing and retail sectors. Both Canada and the U.S. are discussing stronger anti-dumping measures to protect their economies. While discussions are still in the early stages, a new trade agreement could focus on stronger tariffs and enforcement against unfair trade practices, updated supply chain agreements to reduce reliance on China, and revisions to the USMCA to modernize policies for technology and digital trade. Some analysts believe this could lead to a North American economic pact, strengthening Canada-U.S. ties and further reducing dependence on China. But is this realistic? While Canada and the U.S. may align on anti-dumping policies, any new trade agreement faces challenges. China's retaliation. Beijing could impose countermeasures or file trade complaints. Business opposition. Some companies benefit from low-cost Chinese imports and may resist policy changes. An impact on consumers. Stricter trade rules could raise prices on goods for North American shoppers. Meanwhile, other nations like Mexico and the EU are watching closely, as changes in North American trade could impact global markets. So, what should we watch for in the coming months? Formal trade negotiations between Canada and the U.S., possible new tariffs or sanctions targeting China's trade practices, and political debates on trade policy ahead of upcoming elections. With trade policies shifting, businesses, workers, and consumers will all feel the effects. Do you think Canada and the U.S. should push for a new trade deal? And how should they handle China's dumping practices? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.